Hi, my name is John Shebby. I work at IBM in zOS Unix support, and I'm also the IBM representative for zOS support in the MVS program at Share. Today, I'm going to be talking with you about some critical zOS APARs and red alerts since the last Share conference in Fort Worth, and I'm also going to talk about a standalone dump survey that we're conducting. Starting off with critical zOS APARs, hopefully all of you are using enhanced hold data to regularly keep track of hyper and PE APARs. However, in this session, I'm going to be highlighting some of the critical hyper APARs from talking with the zOS component teams, and these are essentially what we'll consider the APARs of death. So starting off with zOS Unix APAR OA 59771, this APAR is marked hyper, and it affects all zOS Unix users running zOS 2.3 and 2.4. And the problem is that in some of our code flows, when doing a fork, in some cases we need to obtain a larger 16 megabyte fork header cell, and if we happen to be out of those large fork header cells, then we end up overlaying a cell pool anchor block or a CPAP control block for this particular cell pool. And the end result or the impact of this is that fork requests that need these larger 16 meg cells, they'll fail with an Advent Easy Charlie 6, and in some cases, a system IPL is also necessary to recover, and in that case, you would see a BPXI019E message indicating that OMVS had a severe internal error and a re-IPL is necessary to correct. Now this APAR is very recent, so there are no currently PTFs available. However, there are plus APARs that are available upon request. The next APAR I want to talk about here is an XCF APAR, OA 59608, which is marked hyper, and this particular APAR only affects users running zOS 2.4 in a sysplex environment, and specifically those users that are using CTCs for XCF signaling communication. And the problem is that the CTCs for XCF signaling communication don't come online automatically when the CTC device comes online. And the biggest impact is for those customers that are running in a basic sysplex, so not a parallel sysplex. And in a basic sysplex environment, the end result is that when this problem happens, no systems are able to join the sysplex. Okay, and you'll see messages typically IXC454I about the signaling connectivity that can't be established for systems, as well as a message IXC455D that's a WTOR talking about replying interval seconds to recheck connectivity or R to reinitialize XCF. Now there is a PTF available for this particular APAR. For release 2.4, it's UJ03197. Note that this PTF became available in the middle of June, so it's not yet part of any RSU. And if you happen to encounter this problem and need to recover, okay, you can start the path out and path in manually via the set XCF commands listed below. Okay, the third APAR I want to highlight is SES APAR OA 59497, which again is marked hyper, and this affects all zOS users running zOS 2.2 and higher releases in a parallel sixplex environment, and specifically where there are applications using cache structures in a coupling facility. So the problem happens if you initiate a dynamic activate that affects coupling facility resources and paths without first varying the paths to the coupling facility offline. In that environment, following the activate, then requests to the cache structures in that coupling facility may end up failing. And the failures that says exploiter C from this issue typically are an Advent 026 with the reason code 1052 when those exploiters try to access cache structures in the affected coupling facility. And you may also see dumps on the other systems in your sysplex, specifically for an Advent 026 and a reason 07070001. There are PTFs available for all 3 releases, and these PTFs have been available since June 3rd, so they are not yet part of an RSU. And if you happen to run into this problem before you have the PTFs installed, okay, there are recovery action steps that are documented in the recovery action in the APAR, and those steps explain how to deactivate and reactivate the links to the coupling facility. Okay, now I'm going to talk about the red alerts since the last share conference in Fort Worth. So we use red alerts for urgent communications about critical actions that we recommend be taken immediately or planned actions that you should take to avoid exceptional circumstances. And this red alert process is defined in the zOS preventive maintenance strategy to maintain system availability document, and I've provided the link below for your reference. So since the last share conference in Fort Worth, okay, I've got a link to the red alerts, and since the last share conference, there has been one red alert just this past week on Thursday, and specifically it's a red alert for DB212 for zOS users, and it's a situation where you can encounter undetected data loss when using the IAG2 feature. So hopefully you're all subscribing to red alerts and getting alerted when these red alerts come out. But if you're not, when you go to this red alert link page that I have on this slide, you can read about the red alerts that are currently out there, and you can also subscribe to get notified as new red alerts are issued. And the last thing I want to talk about here briefly is standalone dump. We are seeing some recent cases where customers are taking an outage to recover from a severe system problem, such as an outage or a hang or a crash. And in some cases, customers are opting not to take standalone dumps before they IPL to recover. So we have a link to a survey here, the URL on the slide, and we'd like your input to help us improve our standalone dumps by sharing your experience, including whether you normally take standalone dumps or not. Okay, so I'd encourage you to provide any feedback about taking standalone dumps at this URL below, which takes you to a standalone dump survey. Okay, and if any of you have any questions about anything in these slides, or if you have any service-related concerns, zOS service-related concerns, please feel free to reach out to me. I have my email below on the bottom of the slide. Thank you.